Hi, and welcome to this video in my series, Drawing Back the Veil, an analysis of the siblings' tale. Today, I'd like to look at a topic that's been really important in my own experience from the very start, and that found its way into Elisabeth's story because it's a key element from my own life. The feelings that I don't belong has been with me from the very beginning, and it informs who I am at a very basic level. I grew up in Pretoria in South Africa during the transition from apartheid to the democratic state that exists today, and noticed I was different from the very beginning. My hometown is an Afrikaans-speaking area, and at kindergarten, I learned Afrikaans, but I grew up in an English-German household. Back then, when I was 2-3 years old, I wasn't consciously aware of it. So the first time I was really consciously aware of my difference came when I was 5 years old. We spent a year in the Netherlands because of my dad's work, and I ended up in a Dutch kindergarten. My mum encouraged me. She said, it's not a problem. Dutch and Afrikaans are so close. You'll be fine. Everyone will understand you. Just talk. I, on the other hand, could hear that there was a major difference between what I said in Afrikaans and what all the other children were saying in Dutch. And there was no way I was going to talk. So I didn't speak. I absolutely refused to do so. The only person I spoke to was the teacher, and I spoke to him in English. Until one day, a group of children started picking on one of the other kids, and that's one thing I hate. I cannot stand watching other people picking on someone. So I was sitting there minding my own business, doing my own thing. I think I was building a sandcastle. Then I start hearing these comments going and this chatter of really mean things going on. And I lost it. I shouted at that group in what by then was a mixture of Afrikaans with Dutch. My Afrikaans words were starting to sound Dutch, and I just shouted at them. I told them off. I told them they were being horrible, and how dare they be that way. And then I went and carried on with my own thing while they stared at me with these eyes big as saucers, their mouths hanging open. And I carried on with my sandcastle, and the next thing I'm starting to hear these whispers, and they were like, wow, Astrid speaks Dutch? When did that happen? We thought she didn't speak. So from that day on, everyone spoke to me, and that was the end of that, and I was part of the group. Out of that one experience that I've relived in different ways over time, I came to realize two really important things. The first is I was alienating myself by focusing so much on my own difference and constantly drawing attention to it by only speaking to the teacher in English and refusing to talk to my classmates at all. My own awareness of my difference made the problem worse, not better. The other thing I learned from this experience is that the line between not belonging and belonging is really fine, and it can change like this. You can cross it in a heartbeat, and for the strangest reasons. In the siblings' tale, Elisabeth is constantly reminded that she doesn't belong. One of the core examples that I used for her character was that she's a daughter of a noble woman and a common trader, meaning that she doesn't fit into either sphere. I chose to use class as my distinguishing signifier because this is a retelling of a fairy tale, and I wanted to draw on that history lying beneath the origins of the fairy tale, which is 18th century Europe. So class issues at the time were becoming a big thing, and I wanted to draw on that for my story. I also wanted to show that it doesn't matter what the situation is because marginalization happens everywhere. Whether it's class or race or gender identity, anything can be a source for not belonging. Back to Elisabeth. She is acutely aware of her mixed status and the fact that she doesn't belong no matter what. She just doesn't believe it's possible for her to belong anywhere. In Aspiring, I bring this up, for example, in a conversation that she has with her love interest, Richard. When she keeps on making these comments about she's never going to get married, it's impossible. Why does everyone keep badgering her about this? And he says, well, what's wrong? There's no issue. And then she explains, and she says, my mixed status makes me unacceptable for either social sphere. From the way my mother was cut off from the aristocratic circles, and how hard she had to fight for my brother Edward to be accepted, I doubt there's any chance whatsoever I shall ever be able to get into those circles. It's just a hopeless fight, what with mother gone now. She might have been able to call in some favors to get me to be someone's handmaid, but now even that slightest possibility has evaporated. As for my chances among the traders in Railtown, I wouldn't be able to fit in either. I have no trade, no knowledge of such things. What use could a man of trade have of a wife who doesn't understand what he does and cannot support him in it? I'd like to share with you Elisabeth's characterization so that you can see how I built these ideas and concepts into her character. There are so many people all over the world who feel they don't belong in the situation they find themselves in, and I wanted to acknowledge that in my book. In particular, over the years, I've come to feel the sting of so many people of immigrant background experience. My father is Bavarian and went to study in South Africa and ended up staying for love. My mother is a descendant of Italian immigrants who assimilated into the English-speaking society, but to a point. They're still very much Italian. I attended a German foreign school because that was the private school that my parents could afford. So instead of attending the local school with all my neighbors, I took a bus for an hour to get to school. Yet again, I was the odd one out because I didn't fit into either of the two firmly delineated groups that existed. You see, you were either a child of Germans who were working in South Africa for a short period of time. They tended to be diplomats or executives in BMW and other big companies that had factories in South Africa. Or you were part of the South African German community. They grew out of the German Lutheran missionary work. So I'm a Catholic. Most of my classmates were Lutheran. I just constantly at every turn got to find out how I didn't fit in. So even in a country heavy with a history of migration, I was constantly having to defend my identity and explain who I really was, because there was no easy signifier. Then at university, people called me the German, which I found quite offensive because I didn't feel German in the least. I mean, I had gotten to know the German kids at school and I didn't associate myself with them or identify with who they were as being something that I was. And in all of those experiences, I started to learn that people love to categorize and they want to be able to put you into a box. They want to know if you're part of their group or not. They want to know if you fit in. And I just simply never fit in. One of the most offensive experiences I've ever had was in France. And it is the reason why I sympathize so much with people of immigrant background, because it brought me up close to the way people will handle a situation based on their own worldview. I went to a museum, I went to buy my ticket, and the lady behind the counter asked me where I was from. And I answered, I'm from South Africa. And she looked at me and she said, no, you can't be from Africa. You're not dark-skinned. As if colonialism never happened. Who did she think she was, deciding for me who I could or couldn't be? It was offensive. I get to choose. I know me. I know who I am. Thank you very much. At the time, I was still too young and too naive, too nice to stand up for myself, so I let it slide. But I did start to see the world from other people's perspective. It made me realize a few things about belonging and the next step after that, which is finding your place in society. That is another great topic that I took up in Aspiring and Becoming. It's a topic I'm going to pick up on with the next video because it's, again, a continuation of everything that I've experienced. So I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this exploration on the question of belonging. I'd love to know your thoughts. And of course, be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss when the next video goes up. Have a lovely day.